I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
The Mind Robber.
The Mind Rob. This is
the Rob Minder.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's what he does. He minds Robs. You know, it's funny because this has nothing to do at all with the episode. Just that, like, whenever I said this episode title to myself, I always said Mind Robert.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I just can't get it out of my head. Where, like, I see that it's written. I see it's written Mind Robber, but I always finish it Mind Robert. I don't know why. I don't know. Like,
is there a particular Robert you have in mind?
No, there's no Robert in mind, which is a crazy thing. There's no reason for this to happen. I don't know. I think it's just there's some sort of RAM overflow in my brain, and I think it's starting to show.
And this is how it starts?
This is how, this episode of Doctor Who is unraveling my psyche.
If any episode of Doctor Who could, I think it might be episode 1 of The Mind Robber.
I kind of agree.
Did you like The Mind Robber?
I really liked a lot of the stuff in this episode. I thought it was really, really interesting.
That is a very carefully worded assessment.
Like, no, that's the thing, is like 98% of this episode I was completely in love with. And then there was just at the very end, I thought it got really, really stupid.
But what parts of it did you find stupid?
The idea that all of a sudden they're revealing that the Earth is going to be taken over, and that they're going to like wipe the minds of all the humans on it or whatever it is they said. Yeah,
I thought that wasn't the most interesting way to develop the concepts introduced throughout the first 4 parts of the story. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, I thought it was building up to this really cool thing, and it just kind of fell a little bit off of the path I wanted it, or the path I was hoping it would go on, and so I don't know. It just seems so weird that all of a sudden, the Earth is in peril now. Like, that was the problem all along, was that the Earth was in peril. And I just didn't know it.
Yeah, it's I find it kind of like incidental to the entire rest of the episode, though, so It doesn't bother me too much.
Right. If I could just forget about that part, then I'll love this episode.
Yeah. So for me, it's almost like the Power of 3, but for some reason it doesn't make me as angry as the Power of 3 does. Although, does it make you angry in that way?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, I can forgive it. I think I can just forgive and forget this one little blip at the end, and I can safely say that I really liked this episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's not the obviously the whole like, oh, this is an alien invasion, we just want to take over Earth. That is not the part of it that I most fondly remember, or even remember at all. In fact, I think I'd forgotten that was the point of everything. When I think back on the story, that's not how I remember it. I just remember it as like, this guy is stuck in this job and he just can't do it anymore.
Right? Like, I think this is a thing that pretty much everyone can relate to. It's so universal.
Yes.
Being stuck in a job you hate and just wanting to leave, but you can't because you need to hire your replacement.
And I think it might have been a better story if they had just ended it up with, like, the doctor's like, well, what's the who set this up and why and what's the point of it? And, like, the end of the answer is like, well, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Would that have been so bad? Would that have been so wrong? I don't think so.
I don't know. That's something I feel like Stephen Moffat does all the time now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm totally, because that's the thing is, like why is just like there are so many cases where bubble universes or pocket universes or whatever, they just exist, and sometimes people get caught in them, and that just happens. That's just people just whatever, they're sleeping one minute and the next minute they wake up in a bubble universe, and that's just, and they just got to deal with it, and that's fine.
Yeah,
and I like that.
I don't even know what this universe is and why I'm stuck in it.
Right.
So I don't really know. I don't really think it's necessary in all cases for the Doctor to have been found out what the land of fiction is. It would be more fun to leave it a mystery, and you could think, oh, maybe this is an ancient Time Lord project gone wrong, or you can come up with whatever explanation you want.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you don't always need to have everything answered right there and then, concretely. I mean, leave things a little open. It's fine. It's perfectly fine if you just leave things open.
Yeah. I mean, by all means, if they want to explain, oh, it's like a simulation or something like that, I'm fine with that. But don't make up a reason for it if the reason's going to be dumb. Here's the reason you created this.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I didn't need the threat of an alien invasion in order to enjoy of Earth in order to enjoy this story. I didn't need that. I was totally fine accepting that, accepting the stakes, which were, the Doctor, Zoe, and Jamie were just stuck in this place they needed to get out of, that they got to by accident, and they just needed to get out of it.
And the Doctor needed to shake off a very aggressive job offer.
Right, exactly. Those stakes are good enough for me, and I don't need the added threat of an invasion of Earth in order to really drive home oh, the Doctor has to win this one.
Yeah.
I didn't need that. I didn't feel like it was missing anything. And that was kind of the thing is this just seemed it seemed like we had a complete story before they brought up that thing about invading Earth. And so I was I just thought it was so bizarre. It just suddenly appeared that oh yeah, this is why we're doing this. There needed to be a why. But yeah, so but everything else I thought was really, really neat. And even the first episode where they're not in the land of fiction yet, really. They're just in this I just love the excuse of oh no, the TARDIS is going to be buried by lava, and so we got to do this emergency thing that puts us nowhere, basically. I just it's so. I just love how ridiculous that is. Mm-hmm. The idea that that lava, given everything we've since learned about the TARDIS, the idea that some lava could threaten the structural integrity of the TARDIS. I mean, obviously, they didn't have that to go on in this episode, so I mean, you can't really fault it,
right? But I'll have kind of a headcanon around that, where the Doctor's acting like he really doesn't want to do it. But I think he's just been itching for an excuse to use this thing, because he's just protesting. He's just making a show of protesting. He's like, "Oh no, it could be too dangerous," and then he's trying to get them to goad him into doing it, because he really wants to see what happens when you materialize the TARDIS into nowhere.
Oh yeah. We always think of the Seventh Doctor as being kind of this manipulative mastermind, but here, this is the Second Doctor being his most manipulative, and he's
well, it's a little like the First Doctor in the Daleks, where he intentionally breaks a piece of the TARDIS so that they'll have to go explore the city to find replacement Mercury.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. This is yeah. I could totally see that. Yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So the TARDIS was never in any real danger. The Doctor just wanted to try this neat new gadget.
Yeah, and look where it got him, but I just, and the concept of that is kind of cool too, the idea that there's this emergency protocol where it'll just where the TARDIS basically just ejects from the universe or whatever, and you end up in this no space or whatever, and it's just it's a cool idea. I like that idea, because it's it's the TARDIS. It can go anywhere, and maybe maybe that's just what you do is, if something's going horribly wrong, maybe there is just an emergency eject where you just eject right out of the universe. Like, I could see that. Why not?
Isn't it a little bit odd that there are 5 parts in this story?
It is odd.
Because that's not a usual length for a Doctor Who story.
That's correct.
Well, originally the story before this, The Dominators, was 6 parts, and this was to be 4 parts.
Oh.
But The Dominators came up short, and they needed another episode with no new sets or actors. So Derek Sherwin, the script editor, wrote a 1-episode prelude to The Mind Robber, explaining more at length how they got into the situation, whereas I think there was something a little quicker in the original version. And they use only the TARDIS and a white void and some robots from another sci-fi series at the BBC that had just finished, and they just painted them white.
That's awesome. Well, and I like that, and it's sort of like...
I thought it was great.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's filler when you're watching it. In retrospect, I can absolutely see, oh yeah, that was totally filler. But it didn't feel like it when I was watching it. It felt like a really interesting, episode. And I wasn't, bored at all or anything like that. So yeah, I think they did a really good job there.
It felt like story, and it did set up the whole notion that they were being lured into a trap.
Right.
That something was trying to coax them out of the TARDIS. So it wasn't completely purposeless. It did sort of move them into the story in an interesting way.
Right.
So I think it ended up working out really well.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's I think that's kind of cool. I mean, it's also really impressive that they just kind of sort of just threw this episode together, and that's neat though.
Yeah, another rather impressive thing that they kind of came up with on the spot was what happened when Fraser Hines, who played Jamie, got the chicken pox.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, so he got the chicken pox. So the script editor, Derek Sherwin, just decided, all right, so we'll just change it so that as part of one of the challenges of the land of fiction, the Doctor has to recreate Jamie's face, and he does it wrong.
That's great. That's pretty brilliant. I mean, I was kind of wondering about that. I was wondering why they would do because they really committed to it. Is the thing is if they were just doing something as a gimmick, you'd think oh we don't want to. I mean, I don't know how contracts worked back in the day, but I feel if it's anything like modern television, you're still paying these actors even when they don't appear in an episode. So and you gotta pay guest actors separately. So it seems like a waste to have Jamie not appear at all in an episode and have him played by a different actor who you also have to pay.
Let's just find a different tall Scottish guy with dark hair.
Right. But yeah, no, that is pretty clever, I have to say. And also, and it kind of I guess it doesn't necessarily. Well, no, that's the thing is it does fit in with the idea of these riddles and challenges and things, and so it really does kind of fit. It's really impressive actually.
Yeah, and I mean one of the aspects of it is that their perception and understanding manipulates what's real.
Right.
Because if they understand something to be real, it can become real, but if they understand it not to be real, then it can become unreal. So if Jamie becomes unreal, then the way in which the Doctor imagines him as being real can bring him back wrong. And I also think it's kind of it's nice that he can't do it right, and that he needs Zoe there to get it right, because he's a bit of a blunderer sometimes, and Zoe is a little more she's also a genius, but she's a little more straightforward.
Yeah, and I also like anything that supports the idea that the Doctor doesn't really understand humans, or isn't really cued into various things like human attraction and things like that. And so I like the idea that he just doesn't know what people look like, and that he would struggle with that. I think
that's so interesting. It fits right into
it does.
Last Christmas.
It exactly does. I think it's See, that's I just like things like that where so yeah. But yeah, so I think that's a real problem for the Doctor. Maybe he doesn't like to admit it, but I think he struggles with human faces. I guess he must think we all look alike. Is that?
Well, there is literally a condition called face blindness.
Oh, right.
Like, for instance, the late Oliver Sacks, who just recently died as of when we're recording, but will have died several months ago as of when this is posted. He had face blindness, and he talked about it on Radiolab a little bit.
Wow. Like, so you just completely, like, is it just a thing where, like, you can't tell who a person is at all, like, until maybe you hear their voice or something?
I believe that, for the most severe versions of it, yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand. Like, I mean, yeah, it is so freaky to me. This is off topic, but it is, well, not even. It is so freaky to me how many things are controlled by just, like, little processes in our brain. And, like, the idea that, like, you could just straight up not recognize or not distinguish faces just because something in your brain is, something is toggled off in your brain. That just kind of, like, freaks me out. But anyway.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I'm not a neurologist or a psychologist even, but I mean, it seems to me that the thing in your brain that recognizes faces and the thing in your brain that recognizes objects are different. Yeah. Because humans are usually much better at recognizing, similar faces apart from one another than they are at recognizing, similar objects.
Right.
Like, two nearly identical faces are much more distinguishable than two nearly identical staplers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, I've got a stapler right here on my desk, and I can't tell it apart from other staplers.
Wow.
I know. But yeah, no, that's kind of freaky that it would be a separate thing, and all this stuff like pattern recognition and stuff like that. It's just so freaky. It's so freaky how just our brains are these fragile collection of neurons that just they all function together, but just so barely. Like, we think we got it all together, but then if you stop and even just think about it for a second, like we just barely have this thing figured out.
Yeah, that's why we need Zoe.
That's right.
What do you think of Jamie and Zoe?
I think they are really good companions for the Doctor. Like, I mean, especially the second Doctor, and I guess that's the only person who had these companions. So, I think that's right. Like
yeah,
okay. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where like like every character in this is like given something to do, and they're all doing their own things, and they all have their own, and they all have like the space to sort of be different and contribute in different ways, and I like it. I especially like Jamie just being this action guy who just is doing all the action stuff, because that's I like it when that is not the Doctor. I like it when when the Doctor is just kind of like he's using his brain and whatnot, and he's not really doing anything remotely resembling action. But then you've got one of his companions who is serving that role. I like that. But yeah,
and he and Patrick Troughton work very well together.
Yeah.
They're always doing these like funny little things like hugging, or sometimes they hold hands. I don't think they did that in this story. They did that in Tomb of the Cybermen.
Huh.
But like when the TARDIS is first like experiencing turbulence when they try to dematerialize in episode 1, like immediately Jamie and the Doctor clutch onto one another, and Zoe's just kind of standing there.
Yeah. Well, it's you gotta have someone, it's got to be the odd person out there,
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to get in between the second Doctor and Jamie, I don't think. Zoe's smart enough to pick up on that.
Yeah, and she also gets a chance to really she gets some action in too.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Into a fight with the carcass,
right? And she's doing all these karate moves and stuff, or whatever. That I'm assuming that was karate. I don't know.
Or her stunt double was doing it at the very least.
I'm terrible at noticing stunt doubles, but I should probably pay more attention. But yeah, no, but yeah, like I was surprised, because up until that point I didn't really get the sense from her that she was this kind of this action oriented companion or whatever, or whatever.
It's not something they ever did all that much. I think this was the this was the main sort of example of it.
Yeah, but
throughout her tenure, but
well, yeah. So she's got that in her arsenal. Is that when brains fail or just not enough, she can snap into action and go into and her training kicks in, I guess, and so she flips into karate mode. And that's awesome.
What did you think of the carcass? Is that a comic strip you'd want to read?
I mean, I think I would check out the first issue or whatever. I'd give it a shot. Probably not though. It's very bizarre. And what is it? It's set in the far flung future in the year. What was it, like 1999 or something? Or
year 2000.
2000. Oh right, I was off.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's odd because Zoe comes from like the late 21st century. Like so this they have her coming. So I guess maybe this is just like an old classic, kind of like the long running comic strips, like Peanuts or something.
Oh yeah, that could be. Well, yeah, or this is her Downton Abbey, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, right. So do we know anything about whether or not this is supposed to be? Is this historical fiction for her, or is it just it's just been like a really it's like a classic. It's like watching I don't know, old Looney Tunes reruns or whatever.
It must be something like that. I don't know, but it's I don't know. He doesn't seem to have many distinguishing characteristics. I mean, he doesn't seem to be like a good protagonist.
No. I mean, no, he doesn't seem to be at all. I mean, he's got fake muscles.
But I do like that they bothered to put in like a character that the viewer couldn't possibly have heard of.
Right.
Because I'm sure that there are some viewers who won't have heard of like Gulliver.
Right.
Especially, because young people watch this, and then, not everyone's heard of, Cyrano de Bergerac. Most people probably heard of Rapunzel because that's a more oft-repeated one. But, so it's like, okay, so the Doctor has one that he hasn't heard of.
Right.
So it kind of puts everyone on the same footing.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, I don't know how this worked though. Like, there was one guy who's basically writing all these fictions, but then but it's possible for just other fictional characters to exist also. Is that how that's working? Like, how did they get into this? How did they get into this?
So I guess it's just that the land of fiction was like generating characters from all fiction, not just his fiction, and he was sort of powering the stories. So basically, fanfic.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, all right.
So it's basically the land of fan fiction more than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, land of fanfics doesn't quite sound as catchy, but yeah, huh? Yeah, that's a place like I probably wouldn't want to stay in very long. I understand why he would want to get out of that.
Oh, so the Master.
Oh my God,
were you confused?
I was extremely confused, especially because the Doctor doesn't seem to know what that could possibly be referring to. And I mean, obviously we're not obviously, or at the point in time at which this story was airing, we should not have known anything was unusual about that name. But yeah, no, that was crazily confusing to me, especially because, as the story is progressing, it kind of does seem like something the Master might come up with.
It does a little bit.
Although it's a little too well thought out.
Yeah.
And if it were like really the Master, he would turn out to be inside one of those robots or soldiers or whatever.
Yes.
He'd pop off the big head or whatever, and he'd be under there with his goatee or whatever.
Yeah, but the Master had not been created yet.
Right.
So it wasn't him.
Right.
But so he's the Master of the land of fiction. That's what this character is usually referred to as. And yeah, it's just very odd to hear them repeatedly referring to the Master, the Master, the Master.
Well, right. And so here's the thing, if in fact the Doctor and the Master have known each other since they were children, on Gallifrey, what was going through the Doctor's mind right now? Was he thinking, oh, could it be him?
Well, it could be that the Doctor doesn't yet know the Master by that name.
Oh, because he could know him by his quote unquote real name.
Yeah.
That could be.
And it could be that I think that by the time the third Doctor encounters the Master in season 8, he does know him by that name, so it could be that there's like a later second Doctor story that fits between some other stories where he meets Cloister, which is the name that is given to the Master in the novels.
Cloister?
Yeah.
All right. It's wow. I'm glad he changed it to Master.
Koschei.
All right.
Yeah. So meets him, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, Cos," and then he's like, "No, I am now known exclusively as the Master, universally."
All right.
Yeah. So that's my assumption.
Yeah. Well, we can go with that.
The name is from Slavic folklore. Koschei.
Right.
That's where that came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe it.
So,
but okay, so we could reasonably say that maybe even the Doctor has no idea what's significant about that name. Yeah, it's still weird though.
It is very strange. But he's apparently a real person. Because
who's a real person?
The Master of the Land of Fiction.
Oh yeah.
Because that's an actual magazine and an actual serial.
Oh really?
Yeah.
All right.
Jack Harkaway.
So okay, huh? So this is a pure historical then.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a pure historical. The Master of the Land of Fiction. He's a pulp fiction writer. He writes The Adventures of Captain Jack Harkaway in The Ensign. And he is the author of Frank Richards.
Okay. So
he's a real person.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, so wait, when did that happen in terms of time? Like, would it be possible that there were fans of Jack Harkaway who saw this and was like, oh wow, this is awesome?
I don't know. But he didn't disappear in the 20s.
Okay.
So I don't know what the deal is. Oh, well, the Doctor brings him home. That's right. So, but he also created Billy Bunter.
Oh, wow. All right.
Who was the basis of Cyril the schoolboy from the Celestial Toymaker.
Right. Wow.
So we have him to thank for that as well. Master of the Land of Fiction.
He really is a villain.
Yes.
Wow.
And I think in some ways this story is a little bit like the Celestial Toymaker.
Actually, I don't think I wrote this down, but I think I had a thought to myself, which was that this did seem like a better version of the Celestial Toymaker. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I wonder if I would dislike this episode if it didn't exist and I had to just watch a reconstruction.
Won't know. Well, actually, I guess you could simulate it by just making a fake reconstruction of an existing episode.
I really want someone to do that with like a David Tennant episode.
If I had a lot of patience, I would absolutely do that. And I would only use like photos taken on set. And I don't know how I would obtain those, but I would
like publicity photos and photos taken on set, like set report photos, and then like hire Freema Agyeman to read a voiceover or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we would need Freema Agyeman to provide the linking narration.
Yes.
Yeah, I do want that. I think that would be so much fun. I wish I had enough free time to do that, because I absolutely would. If I had the free time and resources to do that, I absolutely would.
Yeah, I do it with like Gridlock or something.
Yeah.
Or just some episode. I don't know. Gridlock is actually one of my favorites. But
oh, is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I could see that.
What did you think of Lemuel Gulliver? Lemuel Gulliver.
I've never actually read Gulliver's Travels.
I don't know whether I've read it in its entirety.
Oh, really? You just perhaps read excerpts?
I think I had to read some excerpts. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've read like any of it. So I don't like. But the gimmick was what, that he'd only speak in the words that appear, like that he appears to have said in the book.
Yeah, I don't think he stuck to it 100% though.
Okay,
because he said some things that seemed specific to like the Master of the Land of Fiction.
Yeah,
but I don't know. For all I know, they could have just found stuff. I don't know.
Well, like, could it have been like just like he was limited to the vocabulary of the book, so that like as long like he could string together all the the ands and ors and buts and things, and he just kind of strung them all together.
Yeah,
to form
could be
vague descriptions of I don't remember if he like specifically uses. Well, I mean, and also I haven't read the book, and I would not want to like go through the laborious process of going through and like searching on every single string of text that he could possibly have said. So I'm all right with not verifying that. It sounded kind of like he was just speaking lines from a book. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like it could have been like an extra layer of cleverness if I like knew Gulliver's Travels by heart or whatever, and so like I could pick out the individual lines that were being repurposed. It's kind of like, I don't know, if he was like talking exclusively in Star Wars quotes or something, where he was like it's a trap or whatever. Like, I mean, that would be I would get that, and that would be funny, but I can't say the same for Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah I don't think Gulliver's Travels is that good from what I read of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not missing out.
No, I don't think so. It's just like he goes he travels to a bunch of exotic made up lands, and also Japan. He goes to a land where everyone's really small, and he goes to a land where everyone's really big, and he goes to a land where everyone's horses.
Everyone's horses?
Yeah, they're all horses.
That's
well, and then he becomes like he sort of falls in love with the culture of the horses because they're all very like rational. Right. They're called the Houyhnhnms.
Say that again?
The Houyhnhnms.
The Houyhnhnms?
Yeah.
All right.
And he believes that like they have perfected society, so when he comes home to England, he becomes an outcast because he attempts to like live by the Houyhnhnm code or whatever.
This sounds amazing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it sounds better than it is, I think. I don't know, maybe I need to give it another chance.
Wow, has this ever been made into like a movie?
I think they made it into a movie with Jack Black.
Okay, all right, I can see that.
But I think it was probably pretty different. It's probably like a...
I guess maybe it just sounds really good. Maybe just like looking at it down from like 30,000 feet, it looks awesome. But maybe to actually read it is terrible. That could be. I don't know. But the way you're describing it sounds amazing.
Maybe. But in any case, Gulliver is played in this by an actor by the name of Bernard Horsfall.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, because he's been in 4 different stories of Doctor Who, 3 of which now we've watched for this podcast.
Oh, wait, which ones?
So he was in the War Games.
Oh.
He's the head Time Lord.
Oh.
In the War Games. He was in Planet of the Daleks.
Oh.
And he was one of the Thals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And there is there's like a novel which spins out a theory that the Time Lord is actually going undercover as Gulliver in the land of fiction for some reason. But in any case, he's also in The Deadly Assassin. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's a Tom Baker story. It's the one that kind of has a lot of Gallifrey stuff in it.
Oh, is that the... No, wait. That wasn't the story that set up the whole 13 regeneration rule, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. Huh. Right, so that's a pretty important one.
Yeah, it is actually.
I guess I should feel bad for not having seen it.
Probably.
I feel bad about a lot of things, so we'll just add that to the pile.
It's a good story. I think it's a little overrated.
Oh, okay.
It was a good story. It was despised at the time.
Really? Because it was...
I think it was voted the worst of the season in
wow.
In some poll. I don't know if it was Doctor Who magazine at the time, which I think it might have been Doctor Who magazine, which would have been brand new at the time.
Huh. Wow. So they just... Was it just all the continuity stuff or whatever that just they thought was bad? Well,
yeah, it basically ignored everything about Gallifrey that had been established during the Troughton and Pertwee eras.
Huh.
And it like, for instance, the Three Doctors says that Omega is the founder of Time Lord Society. But the Deadly Assassin just ignores that completely and says that Rassilon was the founder of Time Lord Society.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And there's never really been an explanation on the TV show for how those can both be true. It's basically like I think other media have kind of spun out a story that like makes them like contemporaries of one another, who are like friends and or rivals. Yeah.
Huh. Well, because even after that story, Omega didn't go away though. Like he was still a part of like mythos, right?
Well, they brought him back in. They brought him back in the Fifth Doctor era.
Oh, right.
But they didn't sit down and say, okay, now let's explain how this can still be a thing when Rassilon is also still a thing. They never had that conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, and it's Doctor Who, so I feel like they don't have to have that conversation.
Yeah, and I think in a Seventh Doctor story, maybe Remembrance of the Daleks, the Seventh Doctor says something about like the Time Lord founders Rassilon and Omega, which I guess is kind of a resolution, but it's not like doesn't like explain anything. It just So yeah, and then they show all kinds of like petty politics on Gallifrey, and everyone was like, "This is ruining the mystery of Doctor Who. It's reducing the Doctor's home world to a bunch of squabbling academics." And there were people who were talking about how it had ruined everything. Thus it shall always be.
Right. I think Doctor Who might be at its best when it's ruining itself.
Yeah,
like that's I think that's just standard operating procedure.
Yeah, I'm always excited for the new stories that are going to ruin the stories I currently love.
Yeah, that's what you live for as a Doctor Who fan. Or at least that's what I live for.
But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the whole gimmick where he's just like talking. Gulliver is just like talking in circles and saying things that might only be vaguely related to what they're asking him, and everyone just seems to mostly take it in stride.
Yeah,
Like, they don't go like, "Hey, shut up and answer my question" or anything like that.
Right. He's kind of like, like he's not useful, but like everyone just kind of like tolerates him. It's great. I love it. I think that really just goes to show how inclusive Doctor Who really is. Even people who don't make sense, have a place.
Now, did you know about the Land of Fiction concept going in?
No. I knew almost nothing about this episode going in. Yeah. It doesn't come up again, does it? Like it's
the Land of Fiction?
Yeah.
No. Would you like it to?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think because, you're kind of limitless in terms of, something as vague as the Land of Fiction.
Yeah, Big Finish did a really good Land of Fiction story.
Ooh.
They did one. It's actually the Sixth Doctor and Jamie.
Interesting.
And the story is the Cybermen invade the Land of Fiction.
Oh, wow.
And the Sixth Doctor and Jamie team up with a bunch of fictional characters, including like Dracula and the Artful Dodger and Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and fight off Cybermen in the Land of Fiction.
That sounds amazing.
It's pretty good, and the Carcass gets in on the action too.
Oh, of course,
and so does
you need
Zoe.
him. Huh. Yeah, that just sounds like a worthwhile use of the Land of Fiction. Like that sounds great.
Well, here's a crazy thing about the Land of Fiction that this story doesn't fully address.
Uh-huh.
The Doctor is fictional.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
in our universe, you mean?
Well, he just is. I mean,
well,
he's not. I mean, he's not real.
What now? What do you mean by
the
that? The
characters in the Land of Fiction, like Gulliver, is not more fictional than the Doctor is.
You're gonna have to walk me through this one.
What, you don't agree?
Well, no, I don't. I don't agree, because you have oftentimes instances where you get references to things that are fiction in our universe, but are also fiction in the Doctor Who universe. Like Sherlock Holmes may or may not be fiction in the Doctor Who universe. But so no, I don't know. I mean, don't you think?
I'm mostly just trolling.
All right, well, good, because I don't know what to do with this.
Well, I don't know. I'm wondering, like, should there have been like a fourth wall break here, where like the Doctor uses his own fictionality to his advantage or something?
Well, I did. Yeah, well, I did think that once the Doctor was plugged in, I was sure that what the Doctor was going to do was he was going to defeat the master of the land of fiction by writing him into the story. Like, I thought that was like where that was going, where like, oh, now that he's a part of it, he can just make whatever he wants fictional. Because that was the thing, was like, you know, or at least that was why the Doctor said he couldn't narrate himself into it, was because that would make him fictional, which would be bad. But so, you know, I don't know. I thought that was going somewhere. But I mean, yeah, you know, you could use that. You could break the fourth wall there, I guess. But
because every time like the Doctor or one of the companions would say something like, "But we're not fictional," I was like, "Yeah, you are." I don't know. There was something within me that like wanted them to like just wake up, sheeple. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what that would be like, but I think it would be interesting to do a story around that. I don't know, where like in the land of fiction the fourth wall breaks or something.
Yeah.
Because if there was ever going to be a place for it to happen.
Well, right. That would be it. So like the Doctor, so like something convinces the Doctor that he is in fact a man named Patrick Troughton.
Yeah.
Is that were. And I guess that could either be, well, it is real. I mean, you know, that is really what happened every week on Doctor Who. But you know, I don't know. It gets real confusing real fast, though.
Maybe I like it that way.
You know, there's not anything necessarily wrong with, you know, being really confusing. You know, but I kind of think of it in terms of like, I don't know, if we're talking about like in terms of like Inception or whatever. Like, you've got layers of fiction, and you know, Gulliver is obviously 2 layers deep, fiction wise. In the Doctor Who universe, because he's fictional here, but he's also fictional in there. So it's like, I don't know.
But that's just like a mental construct that the reader is imposing on the text. The actual reality of it is that everything in the story is equally fictional to everything else.
So instead of this episode of Doctor Who being a depiction of a fictional universe where everything is presumed to be real, where the characters end up in a land of their fiction, what you're proposing is an episode of Doctor Who where the characters wind up in this sort of limbo between their universe and our universe, where all of fiction is muddled and nobody knows what's what.
Sure, why not?
You know, that's an interesting concept for an episode where like actually, yeah, that does seem more interesting. Like the idea that, you know, like the Doctor is trapped in this universe where he's fictional, and he can kind of like get into this in between place where, you know, where it's the land of fiction where he is a fiction, but like he could possibly leak out into our universe.
Paul Cornell basically kind of did a story like this.
Oh, really?
A comic story called "The Girl Who Loved Doctor Who."
Oh, yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah, where like the 11th Doctor meets Matt Smith.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So maybe it's not all that original of an idea. So maybe it's not even worth doing. But I don't know. This episode did kind of like get my wheels turning. Like, what kind of like world of fiction related story, you know, could there be? Like, what could they have done instead using this concept that would be a little bit more postmodern?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's all there. You could definitely go for something like that. But yeah, I think there's potential there. I think they could. They could probably bring back the land of fiction, but have it be a different land of fiction where, or even the same one where it just kind of like is where that's the twist. Where the twist is that it's the Doctor who is fiction all along. I imagine that would upset a lot of children.
Yeah, it probably would.
Which. You know, I'm not necessarily opposed to, but I feel like maybe that's a little too cruel.
Yeah, it may well be too cruel.
But I don't know. If it makes for a good story, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as long as you're telling a good story, it's all right to be cruel to children.
Yeah, you know, I think that's fine, right?
A good story like removes all sense of moral obligation. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
There was something in this episode that I instantly thought was too good for Doctor Who.
What?
The special effects with Medusa's snake head.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
That was really cool. And I was like, was that taken from like stock footage of something higher quality?
I don't know. I wish I did.
Because like that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like I was genuinely surprised that they were able to pull something like that off. And it almost made me think like, oh, maybe it's. I mean, they don't really. I don't. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't think there's any like any kind of, because I think you'd have to do this with like or not green screen, rotoscoping or whatever they had back in the 60s. But I don't think that there was any point in which you had like the superimposed shot of the Doctor like looking at the animated snakes. I think it's edited. I think it's edited in such a way where you only ever see her head,
mm-hmm.
and then it cuts to shots of the Doctor and Zoe. So I mean, but that could have just been a technical issue where like that doesn't necessarily mean it's stock footage, but
it looks to me like it might be stop motion though.
Oh, it definitely looks like stop motion. But I mean, I don't know. Like, was stop motion like a high budget thing? But I mean, like either way, it's done. It's animated very well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be I might go back and look at just that scene with like either the audio commentary on the DVD or the info subtitles just to see what kind of information is there, because I would like to know more about how exactly that was done, and like whether that was, I don't know. I mean, whether that was like a particular budget thing or whether it was something experimental, because I didn't know that they were doing stuff like that back in the 60s.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, I can't think of any other time where it's been. I mean, maybe there are other times, but I mean, like for the most part, it seems like Doctor Who, in the 60s was doing like rubber suits and stuff, and I can't think of any other use of like stop motion like that.
I mean, for a single shot on a TV budget,
yeah,
it seems like a lot of effort to go to.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, so it could be that it was just like convenient use of stock footage or whatever. But I don't know where they would have gotten it from. But yeah, I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, I bet there were some children watching this who were really freaked out by that.
Yeah,
I bet there were a lot of things in especially in part one, and also in the Medusa sequence that and the unicorn sequence was actually kind of terrifying too.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
I don't usually think of unicorns as being particularly threatening.
No, you don't. But yeah, no, that's yeah. When you got a charging unicorn, that's something you don't often expect. Because I thought unicorns you think of being like just this friendly thing that I don't know what a unicorn typically does, but it's not generally like charging right at you is the thing.
Yeah, they the way that was shot was kind of weird too.
I
was a little confused about what I was seeing, because it seemed like they might have like combined a puppet. Some of the shots seemed like they might not have embedded an actual horse, but some of them were, and they kind of like weird close-ups and
yeah. So like that was probably done as like a technical limitation, but a close-up shot done right or done wrong can be terrifying.
Yeah.
So,
it just had this very jarring, like, effective, like, confusion, and it was like hectic, and it was, I like that. As some of the sort of big, like big moments of tension got a little bit like repetitive, in that like what they needed to do was like realize that it was fictional, and then I was like, but I can't. And I was like, that got a little samey after a while. That was one thing about the story I wasn't too keen on. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, it does come down to being basically the same thing, where you just, where all they had to do is like chant the same thing, like you don't exist or whatever, and that was how to solve the problem. So yeah, I would say that's probably one complaint you could have against this episode, is that it kind of does get a little repetitive with that. So yeah. Although, it does kind of, actually, if memory serves, it is like the same thing, but it's every possible permutation, I think, because the first one, it works, where they successfully chant your fiction, and then the unicorn turns to fiction, or turns to a cardboard cutout or whatever. And then I think with Medusa, Didn't it not work, or Zoe couldn't do it? So like instead the doctor had to use a mirror, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then with the carcass, it was the doctor couldn't do it, and so it was a little repetitive, but they did kind of like do all the possible permutations.
Yeah, I actually really liked the scene where Jamie is reading off the ticker, and it says the doctor picks up the sword and chops Medusa's head off, and then you see the doctor pick up the sword, and then he doesn't. I don't know, something about that. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah. That concept was kind of cool too. Like just like the idea of like this ticker that was like printing out like a live stream of the fiction. Like that was, or a live blog, I guess, of the fiction. Yeah, that was kind of fascinating. Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of cool and creepy.